The bright spotlights of the America's Got Talent stage cut through the shadows like celestial beams, bathing the stage in golden light. The crowd's murmurs echoed like a low hum of anticipation. The cameras rolled, the red recording light blinking like a heartbeat. Everyone was waiting for the next contestant, unaware that the man about to walk on stage would leave the legendary Simon Cowell completely speechless. The large screen flashed the name, Ramon de la Cruz, 45 years old, Cebu, Philippines. A hush swept through the crowd as a man walked onto the stage wearing a vintage leather jacket, jet black hair styled into a classic pompadour, and holding a glimmering silver microphone like it was a sacred relic. He smiled nervously at the crowd, the kind of shy, genuine smile that instantly drew people in. "Good evening, sir. What's your name?" asked host Cruz from backstage, his deep voice echoing. Ramon cleared his throat, gripping the mic. "I'm Ramon de la Cruz. I'm from the Philippines." The judges looked intrigued. Sofia Vergara leaned forward. Heidi Klum gave an encouraging smile. But Simon Cowell, ever the skeptic, leaned back in his chair, expression unreadable. "Ramon," Simon said, folding his hands. "Tell us, what brings you to America's Got Talent?" Ramon hesitated. The lights glinted off his eyes. "Sir, ever since I was a boy, I loved Elvis Presley. My father used to play his records when we lived in a small house near the sea. We didn't have much, but those songs, they made us feel rich. I want to bring a little bit of Elvis back tonight. For my father." The crowd gave a soft murmur of appreciation. Simon tilted his head. "So, you're doing an Elvis tribute?" Ramon nodded. "Yes, sir. But I want to do it my way." Simon raised a brow. "Your way? That's dangerous territory when you're covering Elvis." Ramon chuckled nervously. "I understand, but this one's from the heart." The room grew still. The orchestra lights dimmed, leaving a single spotlight centered on Ramon. The sound tech queued up a familiar guitar intro, "Can't Help Falling in Love." Ramon closed his eyes, and then he sang. It wasn't imitation, it wasn't mimicry, it was resurrection. His voice was low and velvety, smooth like aged whiskey, carrying the same haunting timbre Elvis had, but there was something else. A quiet ache, a tremor that spoke of poverty, of struggle, of years spent singing to empty bars and street corners. His Filipino accent laced each word with sincerity, wrapping every note in tenderness. "Wise men say, only fools rush in." A few audience members gasped. Simon Cowell's usual stoicism melted into surprise. He blinked, sitting forward, eyes narrowing, not in judgment, but awe. Ramon's voice filled the arena, stretching across the silence. The emotion in his voice wasn't polished or manufactured, it was raw, imperfect, painfully real. His hand trembled slightly as he sang, but he never broke eye contact with the crowd. He reached the chorus, and the melody soared. "Take my hand, take my whole life too." The crowd rose to their feet before the last note even ended. Tears glistened in the eyes of an elderly woman in the front row. Someone in the back shouted, "Go, Ramon." Simon's jaw was slack. His eyes, for once, seemed glassy. He rubbed his lips with his hand, lost in thought, as if struggling to process what he just heard. When the music faded, the room stayed silent. No one wanted to break the spell. Finally, Howie Mandel whispered, "Wow." Sophia wiped her eyes. That was beautiful." Heidi leaned forward, smiling softly. "I could feel every word. It didn't sound like Elvis, it sounded like you singing Elvis's soul." But all eyes turned to Simon. He hadn't spoken yet. The camera zoomed in on his face. He exhaled, leaning into the microphone. "Ramon," he said slowly, voice hoarse, I honestly don't know what to say." The audience gasped. Simon Cowell, the man known for his brutal critiques, the king of sarcasm, was speechless. Ramon stood still, hands trembling. Simon continued, softer now. "You see, I've heard hundreds of Elvis tributes in my life. Some sounded like him, some looked like him, but you felt like him. You captured something that's been missing for a long time. It wasn't a performance. It was love." The crowd roared. Tears welled in Ramon's eyes. He smiled faintly, whispering, "Thank you, sir." Simon's lips curved into something rare, a genuine smile. "No, thank you." Then, almost without warning, Simon stood up. The audience gasped again. The other judges looked shocked. Simon walked to the golden buzzer. Ramon's eyes widened. His hands went to his mouth. Simon pressed the button. The arena exploded with gold confetti. The music swelled. Ramon dropped to his knees, crying, as the glitter rained down on him like blessings from heaven. Sophia and Heidi ran up to hug him. Terry Crews rushed out from backstage, lifting Ramon into the air as the audience chanted his name, Ramon. 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 Simon just stood there, clapping slowly, still lost in thought. When the celebration calmed, Terry handed Ramon the microphone again. "How do you feel, man?" he asked over the noise. Ramon laughed between tears. "Like my father's watching from heaven." The audience fell silent again. Simon leaned forward. "Tell us about him," he said gently. Ramon looked up at the lights. "My father was a fisherman in Cebu. He worked long nights, but every evening before he slept, he'd put on his old radio and play Elvis. We didn't have money for records, so he'd record the songs off the radio onto tapes. He taught me to sing when I was 6. He said, 'Son, music is the one thing that makes you rich even when your pockets are empty.'" A lump formed in Simon's throat. Ramon's voice broke. "He passed away 5 years ago. I promised him one day, I'd sing for the world. I guess, this is it." The crowd cheered again, but quieter this time, respectful, heartfelt. Simon wiped his eye discreetly, then leaned toward the mic once more. "Ramon, your father would be so proud of you. And I want to thank you, for reminding all of us why music matters." Backstage, the producers were in tears. The clip would later trend globally, Simon Cowell speechless after Filipino Elvis tribute. But for now, Ramon stood in the center of the stage, covered in gold, looking skyward. That night, after the cameras stopped rolling, Ramon sat alone in his hotel room. The golden confetti pieces were scattered on the bed beside him like memories. He stared at his reflection in the mirror, disbelief still written across his face. His phone buzzed with messages from back home, his wife, Liza, and their teenage daughter, May. "Greater than, we saw you, Papa. You did it. You made the world hear you." He smiled through tears. A knock came at the door. It was one of the show's producers, carrying a small brown envelope. "Ramon, this was dropped off for you." He opened it. Inside was a handwritten note on elegant paper. It read, "Greater than, dear Ramon. I've been in the music business a long time. I've seen legends come and go. But tonight, I saw something I haven't seen in decades, truth. Thank you for that. I hope this isn't the last time we meet. Simon Cowell." Ramon held the note against his chest. He looked up toward the ceiling and whispered, "We did it, Papa." Weeks passed. Ramon's audition clip went viral, amassing over 50 million views in just a few days. The internet dubbed him, the Filipino Elvis with a heart. Reaction. Videos flooded YouTube, people crying, smiling, replaying his rendition over and over. In the Philippines, news outlets ran stories about him. Radio DJs replayed the performance, calling it, the moment that made Simon cry. Even local fishermen in his village stopped working for a few minutes to watch him on their phones. Ramon's family became overnight celebrities. But to him, it wasn't about fame, it was about fulfilling a promise. When the live shows arrived, Ramon returned to the AGT stage. This time, he wore a white suit, similar to Elvis's iconic, Aloha from Hawaii, outfit, but with subtle Filipino embroidery across the cuffs, symbolizing his roots. Simon greeted him with a nod. "You ready to make us speechless again?" Ramon smiled. "I'll try, sir." The music began, this time, If I Can Dream. The performance was nothing short of divine. Ramon poured his soul into every word, raising his arms to the heavens as if reaching for his father's hand. The song's final line, "There must be peace and understanding someday," hung in the air like a prayer. The audience stood in silence for a full 10 seconds before erupting into cheers. Simon's lips quivered. He looked down, wiping his face. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. "Ramon," he said softly, "I think even Elvis himself would have cried tonight." Ramon's eyes glistened. "Thank you, sir." After the show ended, Simon approached Ramon backstage. "Can I tell you something?" he asked quietly. "Of course." Simon took a deep breath. "My father used to play Elvis too. That's how I fell in love with music. When you sang, it brought him back. I wasn't speechless because you were good, I was speechless because you made me remember." Ramon blinked, stunned. "Thank you, Mr. Cowell. That means everything." Simon smiled faintly. "It means everything to me, too." Months later, Ramon didn't win AGT, but he didn't need to. He won the world's heart. He was invited to perform at Graceland in Memphis, Tennessee, during Elvis Week. When he stepped on that stage, wearing the same jacket from his audition, the crowd of Elvis fans from around the world cheered his name. He sang, "Can't Help Falling in Love," once again, this time beneath the southern night sky. And when he finished, the host announced something unexpected. "Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Cowell is here tonight." Simon walked on stage to thunderous applause. He took the microphone, smiling at Ramon. "I told you, we'd meet again." Ramon laughed, shaking his head in disbelief. Simon continued, "You reminded all of us that music doesn't belong to countries or generations, it belongs to hearts that still believe." The crowd roared. Then, as the spotlight dimmed, Simon gestured for Ramon to take the mic once more. "One more song." Ramon nodded. "For all fathers and sons out there." He sang, "Love Me Tender." Halfway through, Simon quietly walked off stage and stood at the back of the crowd, head bowed. The melody floated over the night air, pure, honest, eternal. As Ramon hit the final note, the stars above seemed to shimmer brighter. Simon didn't speak. He didn't need to, because sometimes, music says everything words never can.